245 years ago, the American colonists revolted against the tyrannical government of the British Empire. However, we were fortunate to have the resources and national determination and unity required to achieve this independence. Many throughout the world are not as fortunate, and that would include the people of Afghanistan, which we abandoned to return to control under the Taliban regime this past summer. We have a moral obligation to renew the war in Afghanistan, to finish the work that we started and left. Research for this speech comes from the Department of State, the Yale Macmillan Center, Brown University, as well as Education Services Australia. In 1996, Human Rights Practices report from the Department of State quotes, "Serious human rights violations continued to occur, and citizens were precluded from changing their government peacefully. Political killings, torture, rape, arbitrary detention, and looting were committed by armed units. The Taliban established Islamic courts that were directly under their influence to rule on crimes the way they saw fit, not the way Islam itself saw fit, but their own views on Islam. An info listed under the curriculum corporation with the Education Services of Australia listed that television, as well as music, were banned under Taliban law as they contained outside influences potentially harmful to their views of Islam. They also cited that women's rights were infringed upon, with the example of all education for women being banned, as well as a very strict social dress code for women that also applied to within the household as well. And with these crimes, the Taliban have shown that they want to oppress their people as an arsenal of democracy, as the torchbearers of freedom for people all around. We have a moral obligation to go back and finish the work that we started there, but left unfinished. A plan to remove the Taliban. Netta C. Crawford from Brown University reported that the 20-year war in Afghanistan cost the United States $2.261 trillion, as well as all participants combined in the conflict, an estimated 241,000 deaths. This monetary as well as cost of lives was part of the reason why we withdrew in the first place. 20-year-long insurgency ends up becoming quite expensive. However, the plan to remove the Taliban would require a swift and purely military objective, which would be the complete subjugation of all Taliban forces and their unconditional surrender. In order to do this, we would need to root out all Taliban personnel currently within the country, as we did in 2001. To follow up, we would also need to be willing to launch strikes into sovereign nations, such as Pakistan, providing the Taliban with monetary, military aid, as well as a route of escape to regroup and rearm. This would prevent the Taliban from being able to regroup themselves and continue potential conflicts in the later future after trying to secure a ceasefire to gain themselves necessary time to recuperate. Any strike within a sovereign nation will need to be limited to the pure military objective, but also followed with economic sanctions to that country, while a diplomatic solution can be worked out that would benefit both nations to protect their sovereignty from any future U.S. attacks, as well as to serve our military objective in Afghanistan. However, it is not just a pure military campaign. Rooting out the Taliban is, however, we must also build a country that can repel any Taliban resurgence after we have ceased operations. We would need to immediately set up a new democratic style of government that can allow free elections for all people to determine their national path forward, as well as a military alliance with Afghanistan that would leave a limited number of U.S. military personnel, including air support, to support the new government of Kabul and any efforts to suppress Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and any other insurgency campaigns against their government. The consequences of if we leave the Taliban in power. The Taliban have demonstrated a history of oppression as well as attempted genocide against their own people. According to a Yale Macmillan Center article, Taliban fighters reportedly concluded door-to-door killings in the Malistan district, which is almost entirely populated by Hazaras. Our nation is built upon the principles of religious freedom, as well as personal liberty and personal choice. Should we not guarantee that right to all people, especially of people that we fought for 20 years and then left with no plan for what came next? What can Americans do as constituents of our republic? Change in policy have often been achieved with public pressure on their elected representatives. My advice would be to send reports detailing Taliban oppressiveness, their crimes, their actions to your members of Congress, as they are the ones responsible for putting together a formal declaration of war. You can also organize protests against any recognition of the Taliban regime as a legitimate government of Afghanistan. In conclusion, the Taliban themselves are an oppressive theocratic order that goes against every principle our nation was founded on. We spent 20 years there fighting to remove a terrorist-friendly government, and then left with no plan for what came next. We didn't even leave a military force to help the government in Kabul achieve the peace that they need. Any military action against the Taliban would need to be a military action with a military objective. There could be no political games during the military campaign to remove the Taliban from power. Only unconditional surrender of all Taliban forces and their leadership would be an accepted objective. A quote from the Young Macmillan Center article: both the Genocide Convention as well as the United Nations-driven doctrine of responsibility to protect commit the global community to take actions when faced with evidence of imminent mass atrocity crimes. This has sadly and frequently been dishonored. It is time for the U.S. as well as the rest of the global community to step up their game, their duty to protect the people of the world as they signed.